So anything you see in the Claude Code view, Claude Code also sees.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah,
Everything you can do, Claude Code can do. There's nothing in between.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. What are the slash commands you guys use?
/PR commit.
What subagents do you use?
I have a few. I have like a planner subagent that I use. I have a code review subagent. Code review.
Top MCPs to use with Claude Code.
Ooh. Puppeteer and Playwright are pretty high up there.
Definitely, yeah.
Sentry has a really good one. Asana has a really good one.
If you want to master Claude Code and 10x your coding skills, you have to learn from the best. I found an interview with Dan Schipper, which is Boris Jerry, and Kat Fu, which are founding engineers of Claude Code. So they use it every day. They definitely know how to use it. Before we get into the interview, I would recommend you to check out the Every channel where I found the interview. It's very nice, and I definitely recommend to follow.
Everything you see in the Claude Code view, Claude Code also sees.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah, and this is
So I think this is very important for you to know that when you're in Claude Code, everything what you see, Claude Code also sees. So you don't have to copy paste things. You don't have to explain things what you are seeing there in Claude Code. You can just use it directly.
Everything you can do, Claude Code can do. There's nothing in between.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So this is another important thing. Claude Code can basically do everything what you can do. It can run JIT commands, can run bash commands, can use slash commands. So every tool you create, you can use yourself. Every MPC server, whatever, Claude Code can also use.
What are the slash commands you guys use?
/PR commit.
yeah.
I think the PR commit / command makes it a lot faster for Claude to know exactly what bash commands to run in order to make a commit.
And what does the PR commit / command do for people who aren't familiar?
Oh, it just tells it like exactly how to make a commit.
Okay.
And you can you can say like, okay, these are the 3 bash commands.
So this one actually do too. There's not so many I use. I mean, it's kind of like them. I have like, for example, check a linear ticket or something, which I use a lot with clear instructions, or actually how to write a commit message. But because every team has their own commit messages, so you have to write them differently. And this is what you do with the slash command. You don't want to say, please don't only do short commits and at the end add some instructions. No, you can just automate it with the slash commands.
They need to be run.
Got it.
And what's pretty cool is also we have this kind of templating system built into slash commands. So we actually run the bash commands ahead of time. They're like embedded into the slash command. And you can also pre-allow certain tool invocations.
So this part that you can actually allow things, I tried it and I did not make it to work. Let me know in the comments it's actually working for you. For me, it was not working. You can actually chain slash commands. You can just like mention a slash command in a slash command, which is very useful.
What subagents do you use?
I have a few. I have like a planner subagent that I use. I have a code review subagent. Code review is actually something where sometimes I use a subagent, sometimes I use a slash command. So usually in CI it's a slash command, but in synchronous use I use a subagent for the same thing.
Why?
It's a good question. Yeah, maybe it's like a matter of taste. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's maybe when you're running synchronously, it's kind of nice to fork off the context window a little bit, because all the stuff that's going on in the code review, it's not relevant to what I'm doing next. But
yeah, that's a very, very important point. The context view, each sub-agent has its own context view. So like that, yeah, as he said, you split the context view, something that is relevant for the code reviewer sub-agent is not relevant for the main agent, for the planner agent, for example. But you have to be careful with all of these sub-agents, because if you use too many sub-agents, it tends to pollute your context, and you run very fast into some limits. So I really advise you to use only few sub-agents. Use the most important sub-agents, not all of them.
CI, it just doesn't matter.
Are you ever spawning like 10 subagents at once? and for what?
For me, I do it mostly for like big migrations.
Okay.
That's like the big thing.
So this, I think, is very interesting about those are like, they developed Claude Code. They have like tons of super users and they use the features like very selective. It's not like, let's create 50 sub-agents or something like that. And they use it for very specific things like this for migrations.
Actually, we have, so this like codery / command that we use, there's a bunch of sub-agents there. And so one of the steps is like find all the issues. And so there's one sub-agent that's like checking for Claude MD compliance. There's another sub-agent that's looking through Git history to see what's going on. Another sub-agent that's looking for kind of obvious bugs. And then we do this like kind of deduping quality step after. So they find a bunch of stuff. A lot of these are false positives. And so then we spawn like 5 more sub-agents. And these are all just like checking for false positives. And in the end, the result is awesome. It finds like all the real issues without the false issues.
So I think this is important. You really have to find your own use cases like them. And then you find something which is perfect and then it saves you tons of times. If you just try features like randomly, I think you can kind of even lose time and instead of winning time.
I think for coding, starting locally is the reasonable thing. And, now we have Claude Code on the web, so you can also use it with a virtual machine. And
so this is important. If you're not that much a fan of a terminal, if you don't want to use a terminal, I recommend you to definitely check out Claude Web. It's new, it's still in beta, but it works pretty good, and you get like 1,000 credits till the 18th of November. $1,000 worth of credits you get for free for testing it out and bringing it to its limits.
Go deeper into like how do you make a good plan? So the sort of the feature dev thing, because I think there's a lot of like little tricks that I'm starting to find, or people at Every starting to find that work, and I'm curious like what are things that we're missing. So for example, one
this is actually, if you feel like you run into rate limits, I recommend you to use the plan mode more. The plan mode will save you tons of time and tons of tokens. So just listen to this, how you actually can do it.
Step in the one unintuitive step of the plan development process is, even if I don't exactly know what the thing that needs to be built is, I just have like a little sentence in my mind, like I want feature X. I have Claude just like implement it just without giving it anything else, and I see what it does, and that helps me understand like, okay,
this is actually something very interesting. You kind of use the YOLO mode. You just say, okay, I want this and this feature. You don't yet have like a very precise idea of the feature. So you just say, just develop it for me. And of course it's not perfect, but you see in which angles Claude Code gets wrong. Like it's adding too many buttons, or the view is like totally off, or something like that. Then you use this information, which you will explain soon, to kind of restart. Use restart again with more precise instructions, and like that you get much cleaner and much faster.
Here's actually what I mean, because it made all these different mistakes, or like it did something that I didn't expect that might be good. And then I use that, like the learning from the sort of throwaway development, and just clear it out. And then that helps me write a better plan spec for the actual feature development, which is something that you would never do before because it'd be too expensive to just like YOLO send an engineer on a feature that you hadn't actually spec'd out. But because you have Claude going through your code base and doing stuff, you can like learn stuff from it that helps inform the actual plan that you make.
Yeah, I feel maybe I can start, and I'm curious how you use it too. I think there's like a few different modes maybe for me. Like one is prototyping mode. Yeah. So like traditional engineering prototyping, you want to kind of build the simplest possible thing that touches all the systems, just so you can kind of get a vague sense of like what are the systems, there's unknowns, and just to kind of trace through everything. Yeah. And so I do the exact same thing as you, Dan. Like Claude just does the thing, and then I see where it messes up, and then I'll ask it to just throw it away and do it again. So just hit escape twice, go back to the old checkpoint, and then try again.
So that's exactly. So you have to hit escape twice, and then you can just go back to a specific checkpoint. And that was the checkpoint in this case would be where you got wrong. I mean, the point where you started. And then you just do it again with better instructions.
I think there's also maybe two other kinds of tasks. So one is just things that Claude can one-shot. And I feel pretty confident it can do it. So I'll just tell it, and then I'll just go to a different tab, and I'll shift tab to auto accept, and then just go do something else, or go to another.
The more you work with Claude Code, the better understanding you get what it can like one shot. So it's not necessary to always do this plan mode if you have already a good feeling how to do it. So in this case, you don't need to use the plan mode. You just give the instructions and run it like he said.
They're one of my quads and tend to that. All it does this. But also there's this kind of like harder feature development. So these are, things are maybe in the past it would have taken like a few hours of engineering time. And for this, usually I'll shift tab into plan mode and then align on the plan first before it even writes any code.
So that's very important, as I do too. And then you get really good results. You have to use the plan mode, shift back and forth in the plan mode. And like that, you really get good results for more complicated features.
This frontier, model doesn't need it, but you're trying to figure out how to make it more efficient because you have so many users that you're not going to use Opus or Sonnet 4 or 5 for everything. Maybe you're going to use Haiku. So there's a trade-off between having a more elaborate harness for Haiku versus just like not spending time on it, using Sonnet, eating the cost, and working on more frontier type stuff.
In general, we've positioned Claude Code to be a very premium offering, so our North Star is making sure that it works incredibly well with the absolutely most powerful model we have, which is Sonnet.
So that's also very interesting. If you think, okay, I want to save tokens, I want to save like costs, and you say, okay, I will create many sub-agents, lots of instructions and prompt everything to make it work with a less powerful model like Haiku, I think it's not what you want to do. There are very specific tasks where you can use Haiku for example, writing a commit message or something like that. In the other case, I recommend you to just use the recommended model because, as you just listened, they opt Claude Code for the most powerful models.
I think we're starting to see the beginnings of this like massive, like massive sub-agents. I don't know what to call this, like swarms or something like that. There's a bunch of people, actually an increasing number of people internally at Anthropic that are using like a lot of credits every month, like spending like over $1,000 every month. And this percent of people is growing actually pretty fast. And I think the common use case is like code migration. And so what they're doing is like framework A to framework B. There's like the main agent, it makes a big to-do list for everything. And then just kind of map reduce over a bunch of sub-agents. So you instruct Claude start 10 agents and then just go 10 at a time and just migrate all the stuff over.
That's interesting. What would be a concrete example of the kind of migration that you're talking about?
I think the most classic is like lint rules. So there's there's some kind of lint rule you're rolling out. There's no autofix here because it's AST analysis is kind of too simplistic for it. I think other stuff is like framework migrations. We just migrated from one testing framework to a different one. That's a pretty common one where it's super easy to verify the output.
So the moment that you want to actually spawn multiple agents like a swarm, they are very specific use cases they use it for. In this case, like a migration. When you migrate from one testing framework to another, or if you want to change your linting rules or something like that.
And this is both for projects inside of Every and then just open source projects. It's like if you're someone building a product and you want to build a feature that's been done before. So maybe like an example that people might need to implement a bunch is like memory. How do you do memory? Because we have a bunch of different products internally, you can just spawn Claude subagents to be like, how do these 3 other products do it? And there's possibility for just tacit code sharing where you don't need to have an API or you don't need to ask anyone. You can just be like, how do we do this?
That's actually something interesting that he does. Basically, it's creating very good Claude MD files, like kind of a memory, as he said. So the theory is that instead of that every feature will take more time, it actually takes less time because your documentation gets better and better. So Claude Code only has to look at those MD files. You make notes of everything, what was not working so well, what has to be considered. And then Claude Code gets better and better with each feature because it knows exactly how to do it
already, and then use the best practices to build your own. And you can also do that with open source, because there's like tons of open source projects where people are like, they've been working in memory for like a year and it's like really, really good. And you'd be like, what are the patterns that people have figured out and which ones do I want to implement?
Totally. You can also connect to your version control system. If you've built a similar feature in the past, Claude Code can use those APIs, like query GitHub directly, and find how people implemented a similar feature in the past and read that code and copy the relevant parts.
Yeah, is there...
This is also very helpful, that you can just like get specific patterns from specific GitHub repos. You just give Claude the URL of the repo, and it's just fetching everything what it needs and implementing it exactly how you want it to be.
And so, yeah, like Kat said, we just build the right extension points. We see how people use it, and that kind of tells us what to build next.
Like, for example, we got all these user requests where people were like, dude, Claude Code is asking me for all these permissions, and I'm out here getting coffee. I don't know that it's asking me for permissions. How can I just get it to, like, ping me on Slack?
So that's actually, she's talking about hooks. So I think that's a very good use case. Like, yeah, sometimes Claude Code runs like for 10 minutes or something like that, and you don't want to sit there and wait. So you can just grab a coffee or something, and you want to get pinged as soon as Claude is done or has a question. And for this, you use hooks.
We built hooks. Dixon built hooks so that people could get pinged on Slack, and you could get.
But I mean, you can use hooks for many more use cases, but it's quite a complicated feature. So
you recently released, you kind of moved or rebranded how you talk about Claude Code to be this like more general purpose agent SDK. Was that driven by some latent demand where you sort of saw there's like a more general purpose use case for what you built?
We realized that similar to how you were talking about using Claude Code for things outside of coding, we saw this happen a lot. Like,
so that's interesting. I do the same thing. I don't use Claude Code for only programming. Recently, I just tagged my spendings. We did a vacation with many people, and we wanted to split, like organize who paid what and stuff like that. And Claude Code was a big help to that, because you just make notes into a file, then you edit it, add more things and stuff, and at the end you have a very clean list of what exactly you wanted.
We get a ton of stories of people who are using Claude Code to like help them write a blog and like manage all the like data inputs and take a first pass in their own tone. We find people building like email assistants on this.
So yeah, you can basically do whatever you want with Claude Code. There are kind of no limits, as it's so powerful and as it's CLI.
I use it for a lot of just like market research because at the core, it's like an agent that can just go on for an infinite amount of time as long as you give it a concrete task and it's able to fetch the right underlying data. So one of the things I was working on was I wanted to look at all the companies in the world and how many engineers they had and to create a ranking. And this is something that Claude Code can do, even though it's not a traditional coding use case. So we realized that like the underlying primitives were really
So really, yes, you can use Claude Code for many, many different use cases.
Coding or kind of coding adjacent use cases that are kind of cool is we have this like issue tracker for Claude Code. The team's just like constantly underwater, like trying to keep up with all the issues coming in. There's just so
this is basically another use case he's talking about.
Many. And so like Claude dedupes the issues and it automatically finds duplicates and it's extremely good at it. It also does first pass resolution. So usually when there's an issue, it'll proactively put up a PR internally, and this is a new thing that Inigo on the team built. So this is pretty cool. There's also like on-call and kind of collecting signals from other places, like getting like Sentry logs and getting like logs from BigQuery and kind of collating all this.
But one interesting, most of the time they just run it once. It's not like that it keeps running. They mentioned it somewhere in the video. Yeah, they just run it once and let it do its job, like for 15 minutes or something.
I think that there are any power user tips that you see people inside of Anthropic or other people who are big power inside of organizations that are big Claude Code power users that people don't know about, but they should.
One thing that Claude Code doesn't naturally like to do, but that I personally find very useful, is Claude Code doesn't naturally like to ask questions. But if you're brainstorming,
This is a very good point, but it's very, very powerful. When I have more complicated features to develop, or like a new feature, or like actually if I start a new project, I tell Claude, ask me clarification questions. And this is working very, very good. Because after you answered those clarification questions, the code quality and what you actually get is a lot better, and you kind of get exactly what you want right away.
the thought partner, a collaborator, usually you do ask questions back and forth to each other. And so this is one of the things that I like to do, especially in plan mode. I'll just tell Claude Code, like, hey, we're just brainstorming this thing. Please ask me questions. If there's anything you're unsure about, I want you to ask questions.
And here again, you do that basically almost of the time in the plan mode, because in the plan mode, it's getting more context, it's getting more information, basically what it needs, and does more research instead of just starting to do and developing the stuff.
And it'll do it. And I think that actually helps you arrive at a better answer.
There's also like so many tips that we can share. I think like there's a few really common mistakes I see people make. One is like you said, like not using plan mode enough. This is just super important. And I think this is people that are kind of new to agentic coding. They kind of assume this thing can do anything, and it can't. It's like not that good today, and it's gonna get better. But today it can one-shot some tasks. It can't one-shot most things. And so you kind of have to understand the limits, and you have to understand like where you get in the loop. And so like something like plan mode, it can like 2-3x success rates pretty easily if you like land on the plan first. Other stuff that I've seen power users do really well is companies that have really big deployments of Claude Code. And now, luckily there's a lot of these companies, so we can kind of learn from them. Having settings JSON that you check into the code base is really important, because you can use this to pre-allow certain commands, so you don't get permission prompted every time.
Yeah, that's it can be very annoying if Claude Code asks all the time, shall I do that? Can I do that? So in this case, you just edit your settings JSON and you allow it to do stuff before. So it does not stop and just does what it's supposed to do.
And also to block certain commands. Let's say you don't want web fetch or whatever. And this way, as an engineer, I don't get prompted. And
you also can block some commands. And as you said, like that, you don't get prompted. So yeah, basically you want to do that.
I can check this in and share it with the whole team so everyone gets to use it. Like the last model is like 30 hours, something like this. And the next model is going to be days. And as you think about kind of parallel.
So that's just like kind of a fun fact. So theoretically, you're able to run Claude Code with Sonnet 4.5 for like 30 hours. But I think that's an edge case. And the next level they are opting for now is like that it even can run for days. So you just give it a task and check in after 30 hours, and it's supposed to be perfect.
One of the people on our marketing team started using Claude Code because she was writing some content that touched on Claude Code, and I was like, you should really experience it. And she got like 30 pop-ups on her screen where she had to accept various permissions because she'd never used a terminal before.
Yeah. So yeah, for non-technical people who never used a terminal before, it's maybe not so straightforward to use Claude Code within the terminal. But yeah, it's actually really worth it. And there are now some alternatives like Claude Code Web.
How do you think about making it intuitive?
There's a lot of like little things that we do. Like we teach people that they can use the question mark to see.
So I did not know that before, that you can just write question mark and you get further information, what you actually can do, what commands you can run. That's pretty interesting.
Tips. We show tips as Claude Code is working. We have like the changelog on the side. We tell you about like, oh, there's a new model that's out, or like we show you at the bottom, we have a note.
So you don't have to worry that much about what is new in Claude Code. I think everything what is important, it's gonna show you, and many things you will just learn by doing.
Hit Control O to see like the full raw transcript, the same thing the model sees. And we don't like show you this until it's actually relevant. So when there's a tool result that's collapsed, then we'll say use Control O to see it. So we don't want to put too much complexity on you at the start.
So if you want to see the raw output of the model, you can it's actually not Command O, it's Command R. Yeah. And I think that's already basically all the tips they gave, most important, most valuable things.